Right now, as you are watching this video, I am very likely running around in a nun's habit somewhere on the Upper East Side. But as is customary on this YouTube channel and my blog Theater Commandments, when I am in Hell Week myself, I make an episode of Tales of Hell Week. You probably all know the drill by now, so let us get into these stories. I'm chilling in the dressing room around 15 minutes before curtain when I notice a group of kids all crowding around something and making a lot of noise. I move closer and find out that the ASM has, for some reason, bought her pet baby sugar glider to rehearsal with her and is keeping it in a shoebox. For those who don't know, a sugar glider is basically a smaller squirrel that can also fly, and placing it in close proximity with a bunch of loud teenagers trying to pet it went about as well as you'd expect. Suffice to say, it lost its motherfucking mind. It wound up flying out of the ASM's hands and into a locker, so someone panicked and closed the locker door, surely trying to help. However, this only caused the sugar glider to become pinned between the locker door and the wall, slowly suffocating it. After about an hour of weighing the risks, we eventually realized that there's no way we can conceal from our director that an Animal Planet documentary is taking place backstage. By the way, the rehearsal was 100% happening on stage during all of this. Director has an understandably what the fuck reaction upon being informed, but since an animal dying in the dressing room would have probably generated a lot of paperwork for her, she had our theater manager go backstage with a power drill to disassemble the locker by hand. The sugar glider escaped relatively unharmed, but probably traumatized, and to this day it remains an infamous legend within the theater department. And yes, I have photo evidence to back all of this up. The person who sent in this story was actually kind enough to send me said photo evidence, and here it is. And for the record, when I read this story at Starbucks this morning, there were two old ladies at the table adjacent to mine, and in the midst of their little chat that they were having over coffee on a Wednesday morning, they both became kind of suspicious and kind of creeped out by me, who was just ever so quietly whispering what the fuck into my laptop as I read this thing. In my school's production of Tarzan, we had a gunshot sound effect. Because the technicians were only there so they didn't fail senior English, they didn't care and always missed the cue. On opening night, they miss it per usual. The guy playing Clayton proceeds to yell BOOM into his mic instead. After that, the technicians landed the cue. I was in a production a couple years ago when we rented really nice, really expensive costumes. Our director told us a million times about not eating in costume and being super careful about getting things on the costumes. But 2 days before opening night, our male lead comes into the green room with a giant piece of bright blue bubblegum all across the front of his costume. He tried everything to get it off before the director saw, but it would not come off. When the director saw the costume, she freaked out and had to find him a new costume last minute. I played Miss Andrew in my school's production of Mary Poppins, and during Brimstone and Treacle Part 2, which is essentially a sing-off between Miss Andrew and Mary Poppins and was affectionately called the Who's Your Nanny rap battle, I had to spin off stage and onto a ramp. All was fine until the second show when my character shoes failed me and I hit the ramp, my feet flew out from under me, and I pretty much fell off stage. I was fine and the audience thought I did it on purpose, but my director came running backstage claiming all he could imagine was blood and broken bones. We were doing a production of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels for our spring musical. Tech Week was hard enough with the insane amount of set changes, including one during a scene with the lights on and everyone on stage. But I digress. This story actually takes place on opening night, where everything went wrong. I was in charge of not only set changes, but the main guy's quick changes and tying him up later in the show. Firstly, I was assigned to take on a couch for the second scene, but my manager took me off it before we opened because I couldn't make it from moving a set scene one off and then running to the other side of the stage. So she puts on another guy, and he and the original girl were supposed to do it. Not only did he forget that, but the original girl blamed me for not doing it. So when my stage manager was reminded by me that I had been reassigned, she chewed out the original girl so much that it made me smile. Secondly, in regards to quick changes, we had to keep changing his clothes in nearly every scene, and he sweat a lot. And he spent the majority of the show in a wheelchair. Then, when I had to tie him up, no matter how tight the knots were, he somehow kept making the knots loose and making them come undone. So we gave up on those pretty quickly. And here's my favorite story. At one point during the show, he gets wheeled off stage and we would simulate a crashing sound, implying that he crashed into the street. How did we make this sound? We filled a garbage can with metal utensils and threw it against the wall. Usually we left the lid off so it wouldn't fall off. However, we left it on the first night by accident. So what happens when we threw the can against the wall? It pops off. It then rolls out of the wing, onto the stage, around the two main leads, off the stage, and into the audience. And from my view in the wing, our director had this beautiful face that just read, yeah, sure. Why not? I am a director, and I have made that face. I was once in Beauty and the Beast as Mrs. Potts. Basically, I had to wear a giant hoop skirt with another skirt on top of that, an apron on top of that, and another apron made out of canvas on top of that. Everything was extremely thick, and I couldn't see my feet. At one point during the show, I had to hold hands with Cogsworth and spin around, while Lumiere held hands with Babette and spun around. Of course, I'm literally done with life because it's Hell Week, and this was just added on to it. Basically, my skirt covers my feet and about 1.5 feet around me, so I couldn't see where I was stepping. This was clearly a problem. The directors didn't think anything through, and we opened in 2 days. I just had to deal with being blind where I was going. I bet you know where this is gonna go. Unfortunately, yes, I do, because after almost 4 years of having theater commandments and all of the stories you guys have sent in, literally nothing shocks me anymore. Except that one story from earlier about the sugar glider. That story has me all the way fucked up. Anyway, back to this one. As Cogsworth was spinning me around, I tripped over Lumiere's foot and almost fell off the stage. But for some reason, the director actually couldn't care less. She just stood there. Like, I'm sorry, but do you not realize that I almost fell into the goddamn orchestra pit? She just kept going on with the show like nothing happened, and I was now terrified of the stage. Theater safety is fun and necessary, and we should not ignore it because that's how shit like this happens! This was during the second night of our show, Finian's Rainbow. My technical director was out of town that weekend, so I took over as assistant technical director. I was the only high schooler to work that show. We were in the middle of the show, and our blackout cues just stopped working. So I left the booth to go find one of the other technicians who just happened to be the lighting designer and was up on our bridge helping our spot ops. As I walked backstage to get the stairs to go up to the bridge, one of the people on run crew stopped me to tell me that the air conditioner was leaking. I looked at him like he was crazy because it was the middle of March. I went up, told the other technician what was going on, and he rushed down to the light board to find out that someone had bumped faders C and D, and that's why we couldn't black out. Next, we went backstage, and for sure something was leaking. So the other technician went up to our grid, looked up, and could see the sky and snowflakes coming in. One of the middle schoolers was playing with the crank that opened the emergency fire exit on the grid. During tech for Merry Wives of Windsor, there's a scene where a character is rummaging through the laundry to try and find someone, but the director did not like the way that one of the cast members was doing it, so she came on stage to demonstrate. When she did, she swung her hand back with such a force that it slapped the person whom she was trying to help. She slapped him so hard that his contact fell out, and we had to wait a solid 10 minutes before we could continue. She also slapped me earlier in the semester. In the show we were doing, I needed to hit someone with a book, and the way I was doing it, it didn't look real to the audience. She came over and swung the book back with such a fury and force that when she hit me, it knocked me off my feet and sent me over the couch behind me. When we did the show, it looked real, so I guess it worked. And this, children, is exactly why we have fight choreography that is designed by trained fight choreographers to keep everything safe. You should never be actually hitting somebody with considerable force on stage. That's not method acting, that's just being an asshat. And also, shame on your director for doing that. It's one thing if you accidentally hit somebody, but it's another when you come on stage and deliberately whip a book at somebody to show them how to do it correctly. Like, she very well could have injured you or given you a concussion when she did that, and that is just absolutely unacceptable. Our prop closet is old, and we were trying to blow off steam in there during a rough tech week. Friend grabs a sword, starts play fighting with it with another castmate, and the sword wasn't dull. The guy got stabbed in the foot and had to go to the ER. Do I really need to say no stabbing people in the theater? And that concludes a very interesting round of stories. Thank you to everybody who submitted a story. A very happy Hell Week to the cast and crew of Swore Angelica, Gianni Schicchi, and Carmen. Leave a comment down below, hit that thumbs up button, follow me in all the links in the description, subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you in the next video.